Ved Pradhan Mantra. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Today we will cover Parjanya Sukta. This comes in the fifth book of the Rig Veda, and hymn number is 83. Parjanya, it has many meanings, like we'll discuss that, but generally, if you go by the literal meaning, it means rain-bearing clouds. So the moment we think of rain-bearing clouds in India, the very term rains, generally it brings a joy on the face of everybody, because in the West, at least in English, when you say rainy day, generally it means bad day. When you say it's a rainy day or save something for the rainy day, bad times, bad days. But in India, rainy day means it's a life-giving day. When we were young, if sometimes there was an announcement that the school will remain closed because it's a rainy day, it used to give us so much of joy. But most importantly, rains is connected with life in India. And that's why, many poets, practically every poet who has touched upon nature has described the rains, the clouds, and the monsoon. Those of you familiar with the Indian literature would know about Kalidas and his most famous work, Meghadutam. It's such a wonderful concept, Meghadutam. Generally, it's called message poetry. And there is a very strong tradition of message poetry in India. But Kalidas took it to a different level. And he made the clouds the messenger. There's a story about a Yajuḥ, one of the spirits, and who is an attendant of Kuber, who is the king of the Yakshas. And Kuber stays somewhere in Kailas in the Himalayas, and Yaksha, he stays somewhere in Alkapuri. And Yaksha is banished, sent to somewhere to central India because of some mistake he committed. And now comes the monsoon, the season of rain-bearing clouds for the 4 months. And Kalidas uses that setting. That means the clouds are there, and the clouds are slowly moving towards the Himalayas. And in, say, beautiful description of the places and the beauty and the grandeur of the place. And through the clouds, he sends the message to his beloved that how he's panting for her. And somehow Kuber comes to know about it, and then he forgives, etc., etc. So you can understand the importance of the rain-bearing clouds, where the greatest poet that India has produced, Kalidas, next only to the sages of the Vedic times, the rishis. And his most important poetic work is on the clouds. Then we have some other poets who have used these rain-bearing clouds for different purposes. They've used the clouds as metaphors for, say, revolution, etc. There's a very famous Hindi poet, Suryakant Tripathi Nirala. He did the same. He used the coming of the clouds as coming of revolution. Those of you who have lived in the northern part of India, particularly the northern part of India, starting somewhere from Bihar to Punjab, because in Bengal, we have northwesterners, so we don't have to we don't have to face the brunt of summer heat the way say Bihar, UP, etc. bears. And then comes the monsoon. Roughly, it's for 4 months, but it doesn't last for 4 months, maybe 3 months or so. Clouds are so deep and dark. Unless you have seen it, this is a very famous book, Chasing the Monsoon. It's a wonderful book, Chasing the Monsoon, and it's partly fictional. I'm not very sure. It appears like a travelogue or a descriptive work. But beautifully, the gentleman has written beautifully. He has described how clouds, the monsoon clouds, first come to Travancore area, Trivandrum area, Kovalam beach, and from there it moves. So he goes around the whole country chasing the monsoon. So these deep dark clouds, unless you have been in India, you cannot understand the importance of Parjanya, the rain bearing clouds. And I have heard, personally, I don't know, many foreigners, the rich foreigners, they come to India, particularly to Mumbai, just to watch these monsoon rains, particularly the sheikhs from Arab, etc. And when these clouds move, sometimes they pour their content silently, and sometimes with huge noise of thunder. It's such a beautiful sight. I mean, different countries have their own specialty in season, but when it comes to Indian monsoon, it's a absolutely different thing. And when we were young, we had seen this heat. Everything seemed to be dying. Grass, creepers, people, animals, trees. If one had to travel, because in those days, the most important mode of transport was to walk. And people would look for some shade somewhere just to sit down. And then comes the rains, and everything springs to life overnight. And very interestingly, these frogs, God knows from where, they simply pop up. And once I was at Narendrapur, which is in the southern fringe of Kolkata. The rains came, and within a month or so, there were such huge frogs and golden looking frogs. God knows how this sprung into life. So, so you can imagine if it's so important for life, what would happen if the rain fails? We have we have many descriptions in our ancient scriptures, like Mahabharata when the monsoon failed. Now, with the modern technologies and modern transportation, people can be saved. But in earlier times, it was nearly impossible to s- save people. What to say of animals? So, Will Durant, famous historian, when he was writing his volume on India and China, the story of civilization, our Oriental heritage, that's the name of the volume. And I love this passage. I put it in Veda Vihangam also. And I'm quoting here from Delhi to Ceylon, the Sri Lanka. The dominant fact in India is heat. Heat that has weakened the physique, shortened the youth, and affected the of quietest religion and philosophy of the inhabitants. The idea is that one reason why that's Wildurant's interpretation, one reason why Indian religions are so quiet, so calm, so tranquil, so life-giving is because we face heat, and we know how life doesn't have much value. The only relief from this heat is to sit still, to do nothing, to desire nothing. Will Durant is not really attacking because he had he had the highest regard for India and Indian religions. Or in the summer months, the monsoon wind may bring cooling moisture and fertilizing rain from the sea. When the monsoon fails to blow, India starves and dreams of nirvana. In one small passage, Hildurand describes the importance of the monsoon. And that's the speciality of the great writers. In a few sentences, they will say so much. No wonder that the sages saw rain as the great gift of God. And, and because of that, the Vedas have quite a few hymns and many verses dedicated to Parjanya, the rain gods. For example, there is one, it comes in Rig Veda, 7th book, 101 number hymn, and the first verse. Tishro vacha pravad jyotiragra ya etadruhe madhudodha mudha. Recite the text of Vedas preceded by light, that is Om, which milk the water yielding udder of Parjanya. So Parjanya in this particular verse is seen like a milch cow whose udders are full of water and squeeze it so that water may come out. Who becomes quickly manifests, roars loudly, endangering the infant. The meaning is lightning and the embryo of the plants. Then there is one very interesting hymn. There are sage verses to his famous sage that also comes in book 7, hymn number 103. It's known as Mundak. Manduk. Manduk. Manduk means frog. Manduk Sukta. Samvat Saram Shashayana Brahmana Vratacharina. The frogs. As I mentioned you, I've seen it. Let's see, normally those of you who might have seen rains in India, you might have heard the croaking of the frogs. But I've seen that we had a good piece of land in front of the building where I stayed, and it was raining. Maybe it was a month or two into the rains, and the whole field was full of golden frogs, fat ones, and croaking at daytime. The frogs, like Brahmins, observant of their vows. So, in earlier times, the Brahmins used to observe many vows. He said that the frogs, as if they are like Brahmins who are observing vows, practicing penance throughout the year. Like there were many vratas where Brahmins observed fast and observed certain vows throughout the year, allowed praises agreeable to Parjanya. And then when that sacrifice comes to an end, they recite Vedic mantras. Just like that, the frogs, as if they are praying to Parjanya now that the rains have come. So Manduk, actually, there is a very serious problem with studying the Ved. A few days ago, I met somebody who told one of his friends had gone through the four Vedas. I didn't say anything because I know how difficult it is to understand the Vedas from the available translations. And that's why I selected some hymns and some verses to give an idea of how the Vedas should be studied. So this hymn, the hymn 583, dedicated to Parjanya, it's a beautiful, beautiful hymn, and it expresses the annual onset of rains. Annual onset. It's a beautiful thing. The heat that has been built up and the relief that ensues after the rains come. If you go etymologically, that means if you break the words Parjanya, one meaning is one who satisfies, and there is that which is born. Third is that which makes victorious or causes birth. That means giving results, making things fruitful. And that which helps attain succor. Now, if you take all this, it applies to rain cloud because rain cloud is directly responsible for all these four. That's one beauty about Sanskrit language, that every word that's used can be broken into its roots, and the root has certain meaning, and you find that the whole thing settles perfectly. The most prominent character of Parjanya, shedding of rains. And he flies around with a watery car which is watery, and then loosens the water skin. In earlier times, now of course, we have tap water and running water, etc. Earlier times, even say maybe 20, 30 years ago, water was often carried in large bags of skin, water skin, it was known. And those people were specialized in getting water from the deep wells and carrying them in that water skin. So, and whenever they had to sprinkle water, they would loosen the mouth, or if someone wanted to drink, they would loosen. You'll find pictures of those water skins. We had seen it when we were young. And whatever Parjanya does, he is associated with thunder and lightning. That means whenever the rains are there, thunder and lightning, these two things are there. So he is in a special degree the producer and nourisher of vegetation. So, by implication, because vegetation get their life from Parjanya, earth is again treated as his wife. So, the imaginations. The devata for this hymn is Parjanya, and Rishi is Bhauma, son of Atri. अच्छा वदत वसम गीभी आभि स्तुहि पर्जन्यम नमसा विवास कनिक प्रदत वृषभो जीरदानु रेतो दधाति ओषधीषु गर्भम. So probably the sages have assembled at some place where they're performing some yajna so that the rain clouds may loosen up and give rains. Even in today's times, particularly in rural areas, when the rains do not come, Special worship is performed. Ram Dhun, that is singing of the chant of Sri Ram for 24 hours. Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare is done. It is a direct fallout of this kind of yajna, Parjanya yajna. It says, sing your welcome to the mighty Parjanya. Sages are being exalted. Praise him with hymns, worship with offerings, who sounds like a thunder, gives showers, the bountiful, who lays in plants water as embryo. So, just a second. So the sages who are there, they pray to Parjanya, and he is visibly present there in the form of rain-bearing clouds. He's mighty. Clouds are so heavy and so huge, and whose roar is the thunder. So, unlike other gods, the presence of Parjanya can be felt directly. And he is to be served well and thoroughly since he gives the rains. Is bountiful because agriculture depends on him, and he lays rains in the plants as embryo. That is, life life of a plant becomes possible only because of rains sent down by Parjanya. So, of course, the sages knew very well that plants need water in its roots. It is being described poetically. Now, here, I would like to tell you something very important that some years ago, I chanced to read an article in which Hindu religion was being criticized for having strange faiths. And the reason given was that somewhere in South India, I don't remember where exactly, maybe in Karnataka or Kerala, rains were late in coming. And so some priests had performed Parjanya Yajna. So there is mention of this Parjanya Yajna, and in spite of the performance of that yajna, there was no rains. So that newspaper article had criticized. And one thing that we need to understand that the general understanding that I have, the general understanding, and that I have gathered by studying the Vedas is that in most cases, the yajnas are performed at the opportune time, which might be kind of sunrise and sunset and onset of monsoon and solar eclipse, lunar eclipse, etc., etc., etc. Now, when it says that this yajna, supposing it's related to dawn, Usha, it doesn't mean that if you perform this yajna, there will be dawn. Essentially, it means when there is dawn, you have to perform this yajna. Same with solar eclipse. There's some yajnas that need to be performed when that thing is happening. When you are solemnizing your marriage, certain yajna is to be performed. Just like that, when the rain clouds have covered the sky, this yajna is to be performed. To think that if you perform Parjanya yajna, the rains will come. No. What the sages say that we pray that we may have, but that's no guarantee. Because had it been so easy, all the things would have been performed just through yajna. And when we read in the Ramayana that Putreshti yajna, one particular yajna was performed so that King Dasharatha may have sons. It is in anticipation. That doesn't mean that if you perform that yajna, you will always have. No. Yajna may give you results, may not give you results. But when everything else has failed, you have to go to God. There is no other option. You have no other option left. And secondly, for example, there are many people who fast on Ekadashi days. It simply means that vrata has to be done on the Ekadashi day. Just like that, these prayers like Parjanya, these are to be offered when the rain clouds are already there in gratitude. So, I mean, I cannot go on fighting with everybody who criticizes Hindu Dharma and Vedic traditions. Problem is people don't want to understand. And Hindu religion is so tolerant. It just doesn't run after people with their sticks. We vrikshan hanti uthanti rakchaso vishwam vibhaya bhuvanam mahavadhat ut anaga ishate vrishnyavato yat parjanyah sanayan hanti duskritaha. Now the words used in the second verse they are very interesting because some of the we are familiar with some of these words, but the meaning as we know of those words they are different. He strikes down the trees, destroys the evil. So when there is this thunder, it destroys the evil. He terrifies all with his mighty weapon. Even the innocent flees from Parjanya. When he, thundering, slays the wicked. So Parjanya slays the wicked and innocent flee and he destroys the evil. So meaning doesn't become clear. If you just read the Vedas directly, if you take the translation of anyone, meaning simply doesn't become clear. And that's why we need commentaries. And unfortunately, we have only one commentary. However, in this particular case, Yask, who is believed to be from 7th BCE, who wrote his famous Nirukta, because he felt that the meaning of the Vedas are getting lost forever. So he just wanted that these be preserved the way they should be understood. And he very clearly describes that. Actually, he gives the meaning of these verses by breaking the words etymologically. He says, lightning that accompanies the rain kills the wicked and also the innocent, which is obvious. The sound of thunder terrifies all. That's also obvious. But the two words here used in this verse, Rakshasa and Duskriti. Rakshasa means demon, and Duskriti, those who are indulging in evil deeds. That's the usual meaning that we have. However, he explains it as the clouds that are holding back the waters. So we have these rain bearing clouds, but the rains are not coming. Rains are stuck up. So it's Parjanya, it's God Parjanya who slays it. The forces that are stopping, that means the seeding of the rain cloud begins because of Parjanya. And seeding is very important. Those of you who know the clouds might be there, but unless there is that seeding, that first drop has to be formed, and only then the clouds start letting out their rains. So now the translators have translated it like evil, etc., as I read. But no, that's not the correct thing. And that's why for every verse that has been chosen for Veda Vihangam, the explanation has been given because that's the only way to understand things. When Indra is called Vritragna, slayer of Vritra, Vritra is also described at various places in the Vedas as a demon who is holding back the rains. Now that's pretty surprising. Like you have the rain clouds, but the rains are not coming. It happens. Those of you who have lived in India, you know that you can see the clouds passing, but you're not getting the rains. Now the scientists are working here and there how to seed such clouds. And there is one expression, Vrishnya Vata. Vrishnya Vata. Vrishnya Vata literally is one whose function is to pour rain. So what Parjanya does is strikes with thunder so that the rains may come down. That's how the water is released. And because this Parjanya is the great slayer, he slays the evil forces that are stopping the rains to come down. So first prayer where it says, Acha vada tavasam givi avi. Sing your welcome to the mighty Parjanya. Why? Because if the rains are not coming down, Parjanya has them released. Rativa kashaya ashwan avikshipan avihi dutan krunte varshyam durat singhasya stanatha udirate yat Parjanya krunute varshyam nabha. As a charioteer whipping his horses, those of you might have seen chariots being whipped. And might have seen that in movies and all. Chariots with 2 horses, 4 horses, and there is the charioteer who he sounds the whips. Like any good rider would never hit his horses. Brings into view the messenger. With the roaring of the lion from afar, Parjanya makes manifest the clouds of rain. It says that there is a commander during, say, a war. And the commander, in earlier times, the commander used to lead his army. And once you saw his chariot, that means first you see the flag and flagpole and the chariot. It simply means that the army is just behind it. The commander is coming, so its army is there. Soldiers are there. Just like that. Parjanya, who is like the commander of these clouds, he is moving forward with the first cloud, and the soldiers, the army of Parjanya in the form of clouds, they are just marching behind him, and rain clouds appear. That means whenever there is this sound of lightning in the form of thunder, you have to know that rains are coming. So unless you have listened to the beginning part of our talk, how important it is for the Indians to have rains, you will not be able to appreciate the importance. Even today, uh, rains are very important in India because our agriculture depends entirely on the monsoon. Long ago, maybe 20, 25, 30 years ago, I remember one of the finance ministers who was going to present a budget in the parliament, and somebody said, "You are the finance minister, you're presenting the budget." And the gentleman had jokingly said, "There's only one finance minister in India who presents his budget, and that is the monsoon. Our budget depends entirely on the monsoon." I read it somewhere in newspaper long ago. I don't know who exactly he was. Pravata vanti patayati vidyut ut osade jihate pinvate swaha. Ira vishwasmay bhuvanaya jayate yat parjanya prithivim retasa avati. those of you might have experienced the monsoon wind. And there's such beautiful songs in every language in India. And Indian movies, I know about, say, Hindi movies and Bengali movies, and there's such soulful songs concerning this monsoon winds. The wind blows strong, lightning flash. When you have these monsoon winds blowing, you feel like flying. You stand outside your house and you feel like flying. Lightning flash. The plants spring up. The sky dissolves. Earth becomes fit for all creatures. And Parjanya protects the soil with showers. Meaning is clear. So once again, we have this famous word Reta. It comes so many times in the Vedas, and its connotations are so different. That Reta here means water particles. Water particles that fall during the rain. So once the monsoon clouds come, monsoon wind come, you can feel the winds blowing strong. It's not terrifying. It's not like cyclone. So soothing, so life-giving. And you can see the lightning flash. But it's not lightning flash the way we have during this northwesterners. Northwesterner lightnings are pretty dangerous, but not these monsoon. Because monsoon clouds can be pretty high. And generally, they don't make much of sound. And when they start making much of sound during, say, September or so, you know that not much rain will come. And most importantly, earth becomes fit for all creatures, both flora and fauna. They find their life once the rains have come. यस्य व्रते पृथ्वी नन्नमिति यस्य व्रते शपवत जर्भुरिति यस्य व्रत औषधिर विश्वरूपा सनः पर्जन्यमहि शर्म यच्छ. Through whose functions the earth is bowed down, through whose functions hoofed cattle thrive, and through whose functions plants assume all kinds of forms. May that great Parjanya give us happiness. Earth gets its life. Cattle get their life. Plants, they grow in different forms. May that Parjanya give us life. So unless you have experienced summer heat in villages, in Indian villages, particularly maybe 2-3 decades ago, you really won't appreciate why this kind of hymn is so important in India. Once the rains are there, life springs back to life. Life which had appeared sleeping or dying suddenly springs back to life. It says, Yasya Brate, a sacred vow. Vrata means sacred vow. Because it's a religious act. Parjanya is performing vrata, sacred act. It's his sacred duty, and he's performing it well. That's why life is continuing. Divona Bristi Maruto Raridhvam Pra Pinvata Privishnu Ashwasya Dhara Arvang Tena Stana Stanai Nu Hyapo Nishinchan Asura Pita Naha. Send down for us Maruta, the rains from the sky. Maruta is the wind god, the stream of rains from sky full of clouds. Come before us, Parjanya, pouring water by this thundering cloud, thou who are the sender of rain, our protector. Here, some words are quite uncommon, although the meaning is very simple. Here, Ashwa, there is a word Ashwa. Ashwa normally means horse, but here it implies widely spread. And the Vrishnu, it means rains. Similarly, Asura. Now, Asura generally means demon. But if you apply the grammatical rules, it can mean water, it can also mean cloud, and surprisingly, it also means sometimes gods and sometimes sages. So that's what is being said here. Send down for us, Maruta, the rain from the sky, because winds are also responsible for it. Abhikrhandastanaya garbhama dha udanvata paridiya rathena dhritim sukarsa vishitam nyancha sama bhavantu udvato nipada. Roar aloud over the earth, nourish the plants, traverse the sky with your water-laden chariot, draw upon the tight-fisted, downward-turned water skin. So think of those water carriers used to carry water skin with their mouths tied tightly. It says, loosen it. And may the high and low places be made level. Now, high and low places cannot be made level. The idea is that where you have fields, sometimes there might be small potholes, larger holes, or ponds, or plain land. Says that, O rain God, pour down so much that water be everywhere and everything may look plain. So when there is enough of water, the entire area looks plain and you cannot distinguish between high and low. So here Persian is being entreated to make thunderous sound facing the earth and pour water as from water screen. Dhritim, dhritim is water screen. And there should be so much of rain that places high and low, they all should look plain, same. Mahantam kosham ut acha nisincha syandatam kulyab vishita purastat घृतेन द्यवा पृथ्वी व्युंधी सुप्रपाणम bhavantu agnabhya. Raise and pour down the voluminous sheath of water. Let the rivers flow forward unimpeded. Rivers, particularly the smaller ones, they just go dry. So instead of telling that the rivers have gone dry, say that let the rivers run forward unimpeded. Such beautiful expression. Saturate with water both heaven and earth, and let there be abundant water for the cows. The most interesting word here is agna. Agna. Agna means that which should not be killed, that which must not be killed. Commentators say it means cows. The cows must not be killed. Now, you might have some of you who are familiar with the modern time discussions whether the ancient Indians ate cows. We don't know because the expressions that we have, the meaning has changed a lot. For example, just now we saw how Asura may mean demon, Asura may mean water, it may mean clouds, it may mean gods, and it may mean sages. However, when you have a clear expression like Agna, it simply means that cows were considered something as something sacred, that we shouldn't be killed. Similarly, females were considered and are considered Agna. They shouldn't be killed. So much so, even female goat, they were not killed. So cow here, enough water for the Agna, enough water for the cows. Well, since this expression is already there, I mean, very difficult to say what exactly were the food habits of the ancient Indians. And these scholars, I mean, they interpret things the way they want, and because they have to take into account so many different factors. Yat parjanya kani kradat stanayan hangsi duskrata patidam vishwa modate yatkin cha pratibhyam adi. When you, with thunder and roar, ye Parjanya, destroy the wicked clouds, that means the clouds that are not releasing water, this universe rejoices and all that is upon the earth. People want rains in Parjanya. You make it possible for the clouds to deliver rain to certain parts. I mean, it's the responsibility of Parjanya God that the whole of land gets plenty of water. Of course, you will say that it's all on the dynamics of air movement, etc., etc., and there are rain shades, etc. But we Indians, we see divine behind every phenomena, and it is just an example of that. Avarsi varsam ut u shugribhaya akah dhanwani ati et avai u ajijan osadhi bhojanasya kamut prajabhyo avido manisha. There has been plenty of rains now. You have rained. There has been plenty of rain. And there has been so much of rain that there is fear of floods. Says now withhold it. You have made the deserts fit for travel. It's very difficult to say whether here desert means desert or just dry land, because in earlier times, if you had to travel a lot, because traveling was mostly done on foot, and if you had to go through dry land for miles, it would be difficult for you to travel without water. And now, with the water there, you have made it fit for travel. You have given life to plants for food to men. Verily, you have obtained the adulations from the people, O Parjanya. It's because of you that life has returned, and people will have something to eat. More importantly, the land has become fit for travel because there would be water. So, Parjanya is being praised and praised well. So, that is Parjanya Sukta. We just gave you an idea of how exactly we looked at the rains, the rain clouds, and their importance, and how the tradition continues in India even today. With that, the series of these hymns, that's over for us. And from the next talk, we will take up some select verses which talk about life and how to improve one's life. And after that, finally, we will go to the last hymn of the Rig Veda, Sangyan Sukta. Thank you so much. Om Shanti Shanti.